Hello guys, Nigel with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench. Welcome back to the channel, and here we are now with part 11, I think it is, of this build of this beautiful ICM sky crane from ICM in 1/35 scale. And yes, it is really coming along. Well, I left you last time, I think we'd done some of the green painting and we'd done some of the shading and everything. Well, since then I've gone on and I've painted the whole thing. So now the whole kit and caboodle is painted with the, you can see the with the pre-shading showing through. And here you can see we've got the external mask now on the window frames, so we can now spray around and do the rubber. Obviously we're going to have to do some more masking, otherwise we get black overspray outside of those masks, but that's not going to be a problem. But as you can see, all the pre-shading done. Lovely. I've done this detail bit of painting on this belt here. You've got that black belt, and then we've got the idler pulley there. I've also put some wash around this area just to see how it looks, because obviously once that radiator goes on there, this radiator here, this assembly with the radiator with the fan and everything, it's all very nice indeed. That's going to clip in to here just like so, and then there's it's staying on its own. There's another piece that comes in the back here that actually supports it, so it's going to be very difficult to get in there with washes. That's why I've done that. But as you can see, that's why I've painted that belt as well, because getting in there and painting that belt now is going to be a real issue. So yeah, so basically thinking very carefully about this now, because as you can see, like this rod here, if I literally touch that, it's going to snap off. We've got lots and lots of bits and pieces to go around the front that are going to be very easily snapped off. So that's why I've gone on. Let me take this radiator off before it goes flying across the room. So that's why I've masked these now, because if I try and get in there and mask it, I mean, it is a nightmare to hold. I mean, I've had to hold it here to do those, but then when it came to doing these in here, what you can't see is I've got like 2 foot of bloody fuselage, and I literally rest it on my shoulder and then get in there and put them in. It would be nice if we could do something before it's all fitted when it's just a cockpit, but I don't think that'd be possible. The other thing I would suggest, if you are building this kit, fit the windows. Okay, maybe even fit the windows before you put the fuselage together, or certainly afterwards. Go around the outside with some Mr. Surfacer. It's not until it's all painted that you can see there is a bit of a gap around the outside of these windows. So when I do my next one, I will put them in, go around the outside with Mr. Surfacer, then go around with a cotton bud to take away, so it looks like the rubber is going into the fuselage. In certain places, you can't really see it because it's hidden with the tape at the moment, but in certain places there is a definite gap around there, so that's worth considering. But other than that, I think everything's going together really nice. I have done some other work as well. I've sprayed the stabilator. In the instructions they tell you to use colour C, and colour C is, where's the front? This is the front. Deep orange, and there's no equivalent other than ICM's own colour. So I'm looking at it and kind of looking at the, in fact I could look at the instructions for the Chinook, or sorry, Chinook, because that's got the same colour. What I've done, I have mixed LP51 and LP7 okay, together, 2 parts 51 to 1 part 7 to get this dark orange colour, and I've got enough in there to do the tailplane on the Chinook, should I ever build that. So 2 parts orange, 1 part red. You could also go X8 and X7, isn't it, for the red. You could use that, or any orange, any red. 2 parts are, I mean, here's, you go, there's one there. There's game colour, orange fire, bloody red. 2 of them, 1 of them is going to give you that colour. And that's obviously painted over, sprayed over the pre-shaded, so you can see the shading coming through. The bottom's not so obvious because I didn't pre-shade it as much, so it's not as faded, but at the top you can see it's quite obvious, and that's obviously going to get a flat coat. But that's very nice indeed. This is going to be fitted absolutely last of all, because it's basically, I think I mentioned it before, it sits on that tiny little tab there and that tiny little pin there, and then there's a little triangular rod that comes up to support it. Oh, it's going to be so weak. That is going to be so weak. So I don't really know what to do. I might be able to just place it on, maybe even put a magnet in there or something. I don't know, but I think I might design it so that it will knock off and not break, because it's bound to get tapped. The other thing I've done, I've built up the rear rotor. In the instructions, in the colour callouts, they're showing here, it's very, very difficult to see because it's tiny, but in there they've got like a little red band on the bottom of the blade, and it doesn't go onto the hub. As you can see on both sides, it doesn't go onto the hub. Well, in my reference pictures of the one at Pima, the red band actually goes all the way, it's like sort of 3mm wide there, and it goes all the way up to the edge of that nub in there. So it goes from here all the way up to like there. So that's what I'm going to do on this one, because I think it looks a lot better than having this bit, you know. I don't think that would be green, I think that would be black anyway. But obviously that I've done the centre, and then we're going to have to mask all that up and spray the blades because they're all glued in. When you put these in, be careful that you don't push them in too far, because as you push them in, these fingers in the hub, they kind of open up and you can easily override the ends. But you can see on there that the ends are definitely, they have an end. The other thing I've done here, on the tail, all you have is like a tiny little indentation in the hub and a tiny little raised area here to glue it on. So what I've done, I've drilled out the center of that 1.2mm. I've drilled out the center of that 1.2mm, and then it's just a case of, it's quite a tight fit, it's just a case of sliding that in there, and now we've got our rotor fitted and it's nice and strong, and we can knock it and it won't break off. So just to give you an idea of the size of that, it is huge. It is absolutely huge. Come on out. It is it's 140mm diameter, so you can tell how big this old bird is. So yeah, really happy that this is coming out. A few little mods. I know it's out of the box, but little things like that I don't consider to be going out, you know, away from out of the box. Adding resin engines, I mean, adding the metal undercarriage isn't out of the box, but if I'd used the plastic undercarriage, it would be snapped by now, because in quite a lot of places what I've done, I've actually held the model like that and I've let it lean on that undercarriage leg over there, and it would have snapped off. And I can tell you, even with these metal undercarriage legs, you can see it's still got some movement in it. So yeah, I really would recommend those aircraft undercarriage legs. Honestly, they are worth their weight in gold. So so that's what we've been up to. The other thing we've done, if you remember all those pieces I showed you that I cut off and cleaned up on Sue's live stream, no sorry, it was Paul's live stream, wasn't it, on the Saturday, all done now. What I've done for the beginners out there, 2 rows of blade tack on a piece of wood, stick the parts in, spray them black, okay, give them 10 minutes to dry, take them all out, turn them over, stick them back in, spray them black, and that way you've got both sides. Then spray them green, give it 10 minutes to dry, turn them over, stick them back in the other way, spray them green, and that way you get, as I can show you here, I'll show you with this piece here, with this tail thing, you can see we've actually got no black bits, it's all green. So that's what we want to do. And with these steps here, you can see we've got green all the way around. So that's the way to do that. It also keeps your parts nice and safe. We've got the tiny little door handles there, absolutely tiny. Be careful with them. You only get 4 in the kit. You only need 3, but you only get 4 in the kit, so you can afford to lose 1, but that's it. And there's that rear steady for that rear stabilizer. You can see it's going to be very, very weak indeed. And we've got these little pitot tube things here that are going to stick up out of the roof at the front. Oh dear. So that's that all done. I've also done these air intakes, given them a quick coat of green, stuck the apparently these are the exits. These exit all the crap, so you get all the dust captured in there. It comes out of there. So there we go. So they're all done. I've got to find some way. I might have to mask it or something. I don't know. I might use Mascol. I've got to find some way of painting this area silver and then dry brushing it over with some green without getting any silver paint on here. I suppose I could use some Mascol and just push it in there, couldn't I? That'll probably work. I'll have to let this paint go off for about 24 hours first. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So that's that. Finished with the set now. This is the scale mask set. Lovely little set. One thing I did think of while I was doing this, and I would suggest doing with any masking set you get, keep the scrap. because you know what it's like when you're doing a window or something and there's no masking set available. You know, getting radiuses like this is really, really difficult. And you've got all these different radii in here that you can use. You've got a big radius there, look. You've got a fairly tight radius there, even tighter there. You've got a fairly big one there. So it's really, it's going to be really handy to have those to use in future. So yeah, bear that in mind. I'm going to keep all of them, and then we'll have them to use. But that was the set I used, M35005. Really, really pleased with it. Really, really glad I got it. Thank you very much, Peter, for sending it. So there we go. So we're all ready now to carry on. What I've got to do now next is get some masking on here. I've just got this. This is the piece that was wrapped around the back, and it's very, very untacky. And I'm just going to put that on there like that. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to spray. I'll probably use Mr. Surfacer, or I might use some LP85 actually. Is it LP85? LP65 rubber black. And spray it in there at very low pressure, because I don't want it, because there's lots of rivets and stuff around here. So it's very difficult to get the masking to go down. So what we're doing, we're sort of using it as almost like a soft mask, because it's probably being held off the surface. So we'll do that, and then when I've done that, I will come back and we can do something else. We may well finish the build in this video, and then the next video will just be decals and clear coats and all that sort of garbage. So let's get that in there like that, and then that one can go like that. Something else I've noticed, I'm just going to give you guys another tip of something not to do. If you remember, I had these all clamped up. If you remember, I had one of my big clamps across there when I was building this, and I put the sprue go inside, and what's happened, you can probably just make it out there, we've got sink marks, and that's where I've had pressure on there from the clamps, and obviously the sprue go has softened the plastic and it's pulled it in. So I won't be making that mistake in a hurry again, stupid boy. So worth bearing in mind, that one. Don't do as I say, not as I do, because I do things wrong all the bloody time. So there we go. The other thing oh, that was close, almost broke that then. The other thing we need to do is do some more localized masking, because these frames here on these windows should be silver. So I think they were just aluminium strips, or aluminum strips in this case, because it's American. So we'll get some more tape off, get these masked up, and then I'll get them painted, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like. And we're done. So that's LP65 rubber black around there. This is LP72 mica silver. As I say, I'm not 100% sure this is accurate, but it is going to add a little bit of colour to an otherwise green blob. But certainly the one at Pima looks like it's got aluminium frames, and looks like they haven't ever had paint on them. So there we go. But and it also doesn't look restored, so that's the main thing. So let's see what these look like when they're peeled off. We'll see how successful this masking has been. They are very good, these masks. I really do like them, the Art Scale Kit ones. It's a very sort of thin paper tape, very sharp edges, and as you can see there, we've got a black surround. Now, I'm not going to take the mask off the windows, because obviously we're going to be doing clear coats and stuff, but we do have a lovely black rim now around the outside of those windows. So we'll get up into here. These should all come off together because they all overlap. There we go, that was easy, wasn't it? You can see once again we've got a nice black frame around them, and then repeat on the other side, and the same on that one. And here you can see what I was talking about with the gap down the side of the window. In hindsight now, I would have fitted that window and put Mr. Surfacer around there before I did any painting. I didn't notice it when I fitted it. I wish I had. But never mind, it's done now, and I know for the next time. So I'll have to make some notes in the instructions and put the instruction booklet in with the other kit I've got. So we'll put in there, you know, do not clamp here, paint this, do this, do this. But on the other one, the glazing is a lot nicer. It fits a lot nicer, so that won't be so much work either. But I think the other one's going to be lovely because I'm going to be getting the Keelix cockpit set with the belts and everything. I'll get the Eduard cockpit set, which looks absolutely amazing with all the detail which is missing. Other than this down the back, I guess we'll have to scratch build that. But it's got all the floors and everything and the nice seats, and basically everything that's missing in there is pretty much in the Eduard set, except for the detail that goes on this wall here. So there we go. Right, let's move on and do something else. Here you can see one of the problems with not using enough tape. You can see I've managed to get silver overspray here. Complete and utter pain in the bum, and because it's LP, there's no way I'm going to get it off without damaging the paint underneath. So I'm just going to have to quickly blow that over again with a drop of the green. Okay then, so moving on. It's been rotor blade city here. I've got the main rotor blades here, and I've got the tail rotor here all masked up, and as you can see I've gone around with the white paint. Now the kit for the main rotor blades, I've gone around with the white paint as a base coat for the yellow, because they give you decals. Well, they don't give you decals for the end, but they give you decals for these stripes. There's 2 yellow stripes on here. I'll show you in a minute. And I've decided I'm going to mask them and paint them rather than have decals, because it's always difficult to get them to go around straight and everything, and it's just easier just to mask it and paint it, because you can get the mask in, check it straight, take it off, lay it down. It's a lot easier. So you can see on here we've got these thin yellow bands around the rotor blades here, and then we've got that thick one at the end. I've scaled it up from this drawing. Obviously it's not that important, the position of them, but basically 140 centimeters, 140 millimeters from the end for those outer ones, and then 19.8 for the inner ones. So all I've done is measured that up and gone around with some white paint, and just to make it easier for the yellow to pop, and then we'll mask them and paint them black. For the tail rotor, we get decals as we do for there's these yellow stripes here, and we get these decals here for the ends of the tail rotor. Rather than use them, I've decided I'm going to paint them. So I've got the white on here. Let's bring this over. So I've got the white on here, as you can see, and then basically that decal would wrap around. Rather than do that, I am going to paint them. So what I've done is measured up the decal, and why am I getting the instructions out again? I've measured up the decal and made some strips here on my Infini Easy Cutting Mat Type A. And basically this one here is 4 times 0.9, and this one here is 4 times 0.8. This one represents what will be the red, because we've got 2 red bands and a white band, and the white band is thicker than the 2 red bands. So not that it's important, I don't think it really matters that much, but what I'll do is I'll put one of these on, wrap it round, and then butt one of these up against it. So first of all, one of these, I'll just show you. So one of these will go on, first of all, okay, and that'll get wrapped round. And then one of these will get butted up against it, okay, just like so, and then that'll get wrapped around. Get that a bit squarer. Obviously I'm not doing this because I'm going to do this under the magnifier. That'll go on like that, and then remove that one, stick it back on here just roughly, and then spray the red. And then when we come to spray the black, what we'll do is we'll put another one of these butted up to there, and that makes ensures we've got a parallel red and white line, and then we'll spray the black. And we also have to mask down in here as well, because this is all going to be red here. So I'll get on and get that masked, and then I'll come back and show you how it looks, and we'll get some red paint down. And so we're done. So we've got the red down. As you know, I put the masking tape on there, put that up against it. And now what we'll do is do the same again. We'll use one of these narrow strips, put it up against that one, and that'll give us our masking for the black. Down here, it's going to be really tough to mask neatly because we've got all these undulations and stuff. But basically, we need to come up to like the second bolt. So it's a very narrow red strip on the bottom. And I don't quite, I'm going to have to be really careful to get the masking tape pushed into all the corners and everything, but we'll get there. So that's ready for the black. I'll leave that a good 12 hours for fear of peeling it off when you peel the masking tape off. Don't ever mask too quickly if you can help it. So yeah, really, really lovely and ready to go. That is LP7, so that's all good. Then when it comes to the main rotor blades, done them as well. And as you can see, we've got the yellow. The reason I put the white down first is to give the yellow a chance to because yellow is one of the worst colours there is. to paint. So I did it all. I used LP8, okay, which is a very bright yellow, and as you can see, this is slightly darker. And what I did, I compared it to the colour on the decals, and it was very, very bright in comparison. So I just added a brush full of orange in the cup. Oh my god, you mixed in the cup? Yes, I mixed in the cup. Wow. And now I've got a fairly sort of pretty close match to that, so happy with that. So there we go. So we just got to leave all that to dry now for at least sort of 12 hours, because as I say, don't go masking anything too quickly. You'll just, when you come to peel the tape off, it'll just peel all the paint off with it, because the glue and the chemicals in the paint will react and they'll form a nice little sticky bond, and just not as sticky as it is to the plastic, so it'll just come off. So and bear in mind, if you are using these LP paints, you don't need to prime. It's designed to stick straight to the plastic. So there we go. So no decals, no decals, So I prefer to paint things if I can. Okay then guys, this thing is getting extremely difficult to handle wherever you pick it up. I mean, I've just picked it up and, you know, put my finger on there and snap one of those connectors off of there, and you can easily snap these pipes here that are sticking out. What I've done is gone around and just picked out some details. I'm looking at reference photos, and it looks like these little tanks here have sight gauges in them. And the ones I saw, these three little ones, they were white. The taller one and this one here had a gauge, and they were black. So I've done those in a very dark grey. And then after everything is done and it's weathered and flat coated and everything, then I'll put some clear varnish in there to depict glass. Now, it's showing a lot of these bit fittings and stuff here as being aluminium. I don't know if they would have been painted grey and the paint's just come off because of the hot, cold or whatever. So I thought I'd do a few little bits and pieces just to add a bit of detail. I did notice this hose here is a stainless steel braided hose, so that wouldn't have been painted. So I've done that in silver on both sides, and I'm not going to go over the top because I don't want it to look all sort of bitty. I just want to add a little bit of detail. I've done this break here in like a sort of steel colour with a sort of darker centre. I've just missed a bit of black in with the steel. This is all Vallejo game colour, and just basically just going around and just picking out little bits and pieces. When it's dry brushed and everything, I'm not sure about it. I should probably pick something out in there. And these canisters, I'd have thought they'd have been a different colour, but they're not. They're actually the same colour as the rest. But I'd have thought this area here and this area here would could sort of do with a little bit of something with it. So I'll have a look at that in a minute. But basically, I'm just trying to sort of take away this green blob. So there might be a few bits in here as well that could be done. So we are getting there. So I think what I'm going to do now is have a look at this. I'll do some detail painting there if required. But I think I'm going to go on and perhaps put some washes in the top underneath where the engines will go, and then we can go on and get the engines fitted, because you know, we need to press on with this. And the thing is, I'm sort of conscious that if I start fitting these grab rails and stuff on here and the winches on the outside, I'm going to have literally nowhere other than the back here. In fact, we've even got antenna going on here, so I can't even do that. I'm going to have to be picking it up back here, you know, and I won't be able to hold it anywhere else. So yeah, we've got all the steps and all the, it's going to be a nightmare. It's just going to be, you're just going to touch it and something's going to break off. But anyway, I think what I'll do is get some washes in here, get some staining going on just in that area. And I've got the plate here now, which is painted to look like sort of hot metal. So that's all done. That's going to have to be glued in before the engines go in. But I think what I'll do is get some oils in there, get some, you know, just pick out some details, and then we'll get this in afterwards and sort of stick it in with a couple of drops of super glue or something. It's not a very good fit. You need to scrape the bottom, scrape a chamfer, because it's too wide to fit into the slot. It's very strange. It just doesn't want to go in at all, and yet it looks like it's absolutely fine. But we will get there in the end. So I think a couple of drops of super glue will be enough to hold that in. I've just noticed a fingerprint there. Get rid of that. Okay, so so I'll get on, and then I'll come back and show you what I've done when I've done it, because you might want to see me put the engines in and stuff, but I don't really think you need to see me putting little greeblies on and that. But I want to get this done, and I really don't know where to go. I don't know where to go with it next. I don't know what to do. Right, see you in a minute. Right, next day now. So I doubt you're even going to see this, but what I've done, it's so subtle that this is what you're after. Unless you want to weather the hell out of something, you just want to add some subtlety just to break up. So we've got the pre-shading, which has broken up the green, and now we want to break that up so it kind of looks a bit dirty. Now, it won't be particularly dusty. As you think about it, you've got these bloody massive rotor blades banging loads of air down. Nothing's going to be able to settle. You're not going to have dust settling in spaces. So be careful what you do in there. You may have some mud if the aircraft's being serviced in a muddy area or something. You may have some mud. You may have some oil staining and whatever. And it will be generally grimy around here because here you've got the engines, and then everywhere else you're going to have people walking over it. Now, if you want to wear the hell out of it, you're going to have chipping, you're going to have scuffs, maybe repaired paint patches, whatever. And for those of you that are wondering, I haven't put these panels on here. Two reasons. I like the look of it without them. I don't like the look of it with them. I think the whole thing looks like a sort of riveted together Meccano set, and those things kind of look a bit sort of futuristic, if you like. So I don't like the look of them. But the other thing I don't like about them is they're very simply moulded. There should be more detail down the top, which I would add. But because I don't like the look of them, I'm not going to bother. So I'm just going to leave them off. I've looked at Vietnam pictures. If you put tar hay in Vietnam in Google Images, you'll find lots of pictures of these things in their period. And you'll see lots of images of how they weathered and how dirty they were and everything. But also you'll see quite a few images of them without those fairings. So I don't exactly know what they were for. Maybe they improved the lift. I don't know. Maybe they were to take pressure away from a certain area. I don't know. But I don't like them, so I'm not putting them on. I've added a wash to here. And what I've been using is this brilliant stuff. This is Modeller's World Oil Wash. And this one is black brown. And all I do is literally put some into an upturned Tamiya pot and just brush it on. And then what you do is take a cotton bud, I use one of these wooden ones, and just literally just roll the cotton bud over the top. And the beauty of this stuff is, I mean, this was put on last night, probably 18 hours ago, 14 hours ago, whatever. And I can still, you can see I can still play with it. I can remove it. I can, if I've got a bit heavy in one area, like up here, I can think, oh, I don't like that there. I can just remove it, and that's the beauty. And if you want it completely gone, a little bit of odorless thinners on a cloth, wipe it off, it's gone. But yeah, it's brilliant stuff. It needs to be sealed in, I think. You can't just, if you're going to touch in your model, you can't just leave it. But it is very, very good, and I really, really do like the stuff. So yeah, really, really happy with how it's all coming out at the moment. So what I've done, I've just sort of done from there to there so that I can build all this up. And then what we'll do the rest when we're all done, and then everything will get done in together. Obviously, we need to make sure we've got the decals on before you start doing washes and stuff, because you don't want perfectly bright, clean decals on top of a weathered helicopter. So we need to get this glued on. So I'm going to get some of my black super glue, just put a few drops of that in there, and then just literally push this down. It doesn't really need to be held down very solid, because the engines will actually hold it in. The engines sit in those two scoops in there, and they'll hold it down. So I'll get that done, and then I think I'll come back and we'll look at painting these rotor blades some more. Just a word on this heat shield, guys. It really is a bit of a pain. Certainly when I build my next one, the first thing I'm going to do before I build any of this up, when this is just a panel, I'm going to get this to fit perfectly, because you can see here we've got gaps down the side here. There's a gap there. It just looks bloody awful. I'm not going to worry about it too much on this one, but if I was doing a lot of super detailing with, you know, plumbing and cabling and everything, and adding rivet bolt detail and all that, you don't want to see something like that. So it just doesn't fit at all. And I think it's slightly bent. I don't know, it's really, really strange. It's really, really strange that it just won't go down into that groove. You can squeeze it as hard as you like, and even though it's thinned out, it will not go down into that groove. So I really do not know what is going on with it. It's a right pain. So I think, as I say, on the next one I'm going to make that panel fit without assembling anything else, so it's just a drop in. So and then when I do that, I'll let you know what is actually stopping it fitting, because it is a simple V shape. You have cutouts for these legs here, which they go in. There's no cutouts for the outer legs here. But as you can see, you've got a gap because it's not going down in, and it seems to be twisted as well. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I can remove it and start again. Yeah, I can. So what I'm going to do is twist that round and see what on earth is going on, because it is just, you can see that it's made it into the bottom of the groove, but it's just like maybe it's just an awful fit, and there's no reason for it, you know. It just, I'll take some more material off the bottom of it, and that will allow it to go down in a bit lower. Perhaps let it sit on those legs at the end properly, rather than leave a great big unsightly gap. But it's, and I must be honest, I think part of the reason is these legs here. So I'm going to remove some material from the front of them. In fact, I'll use a knife and cut some material from the front of them, because you're not really going to see them anyway, because the engines are going to hide it. Because maybe they're not going down into their grooves. I'm going to thin them out because they were too thick, but maybe that's not enough. Let's see what happens now. You see, we've still got this great big gap on the side here. It's just, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, is it too long there? Do we need to remove some material from the ends? I mean, I thought I had this fitting, although I did all this before I did any painting. But as you can see, we've still got a gap. It's just ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous. It's just, it's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. Okay. I mean, you can see how thin that is compared to how wide the groove is. It's a simple V. It's not a complex shape. It should just drop down in. But it doesn't. And there is still a gap. I'm just going to have to wrestle with this off camera, guys. I'm absolutely befuddled. I don't know what to say, what to do. I do not know what on earth is going on. I mean, this is half the thickness of that slot. I've removed a lot of material off its height, so it should drop down in easily. And it still will not go in. Bloody great big thing. I think part of the problem with it not going in initially is that these, I've just noticed here, I don't know if you can see it, but if you notice there, I don't know if you can see that there, where I'm pointing to, but the actual groove in the plastic is not in the right place. So that is not going down into that groove. But I'm going to remove material off the bottom of it anyway, so it's not, it doesn't have to go down into that groove. I'm going to break something in a minute, I know I am, because it's just a huge, great thing flying around on the bench. I'm just going to have make do, I think. I'll try and give it a twist to make it fit a little better. But it's just unbelievable how it just will not fit. And it's a simple V and a groove and a, you know, it's a slot with something going into it. It's just not, and the slot is wider than what's got to go into it, so it should just fall together, but it doesn't. If it didn't have to be painted silver, it'd be nice to be glued it beforehand, but unfortunately it's a different colour, so I suppose we could have glued it on before the gear housing. So yeah, I'm gonna have to just make do with it and super glue it in again. I just don't get it. It's crazy. Right, so that's glued on now. You can see that over here. It's glued on and it's solid. It's got the gap at the end still, but hey ho, there we go. Like I say, if you're building this kit, if you haven't started yet, I would get those two parts off the sprue. They are parts. Where's the top going on? Here we go. It's part A2, and then part F31. So I would seriously get those two parts off the sprue and get that to fit in there beautifully by whatever means before you go any further, because it'll be so much easier with just lead on the bench and you can, you know, pick it up and look at it rather than when the helicopter's built. So that would be my step tip there. I must start making some notes in this manual. I'm going to forget when I do my second one. And for those that are asking, you saw me yesterday do a Red Fox Studio review of the Apache cockpit parts that I bought. Attila has emailed me, and he is going to be sending me the CH54 instrument panel as soon as it's available, which is going to be very, very soon. So keep your eyes open for that one, and if you're after it, go and have a look at his website and order yourself one. It's not available yet, so he doesn't do sort of pre-order, but as soon as it's available, it will be on there. Right. This tail rotor, as you know, we're not using the decals, we're using the masks. If you remember, I cut these masks. For me, it's a couple of days ago. For you, it's a few minutes ago. That's the problem. So what I need to do now, we've got the, if you remember, we put the narrow piece on, and then we put the wider piece next to it to mask the white. There's white under there, remember. So now we need a narrow piece. Okay, so we get a narrow red band before the black. And what we're going to do is just put this on and butt it up to the red, up to the other masking tape there. Okay, now I'm going to need to do this under a magnifier because my eyesight isn't amazing. But as long as it's close, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be perfect. And if you notice what I'm doing, I have the end of the masking tape over the trailing edge, and then you can pinch them together and get a good seal. If you do it over the leading edge, because it's a radius, it's very hard to get the tape to sort of conform to the shape and then go straight, whereas on the trailing edge you can just pinch it together like you can see on that one there. It's just pinched together. So there we go. So that is on there now, up against the edge of that other piece of masking tape, just like so. So we can wrap that round. Just like that. As you can see, it hasn't quite reached, it's about a 1/4 millimeter too short. So what I'll do is I'll take it off and I'll start again. I've left too much overhang on the end. So there we go. So pull that round. So it's butted up to that one. Pull that back down a bit because I've moved it over. There we go. So we can push that down. So it's nice and tight up against there. Frog in my throat again, I'm sorry. And then pull that over. Just like so. There we go, that's that done. And then we can just pinch the ends together with our tweezers. And then we've got a good seal. And then we need to come along with a piece of 10mm masking tape, like so, and just mask the rest off, just like that, so that we don't get any black overspray on our ends. Here we go, and we can pinch that again if you need to. Just pinch that together. They're going to be a nightmare to remove. And then we've got to look at this inner edge here. Now this inner edge is going to be a nightmare to mask because it's so undulating. I think I'm going to use another piece of masking tape for that, but basically what I'm going to do, I'll show you here with one of these. Bloody frogs. I know I don't mean French people. I mean frogs in my throat. So we can put that on there like that, and the reference pictures I've got, it looks like it comes up to the second bolt. Okay, so there's 4 rows of bolts on there. I'm coming up to the second one. So pull that away, come up to the second row of bolts. Need to move that over a bit. I don't think this masking tape is going to be long enough because it's got to go over this shape. And then we'll push it into that corner, push it over the top, push it into that corner, and then around, and then we've got to do the same again on the other side. And I don't think it's not going to be long enough. You can see it's not even reaching now. So I'm going to use some different tape. I think I might use my little what is it, Izu, yeah, I forgot the name then. So I might use a piece of this because it's narrow, it's easy to get into the corners and everything, and then go slightly wider, and then finish off with a piece of 6mm to mask all the red bits off. And then I might actually spray red first over these, just in case there's any leakage underneath that seam line, for instance. Spray some red first. That'll just seal any tiny gaps in the tape, and then spray it black. So come back and see me when I've done that. And so we've done masking, and as you can see, we've done sanding and all sorts. And then I started spraying the blades, and then realised I hadn't actually done anything about this. So basically, we've got the tail rotor done, and what I've done, I didn't go over with red. I just made sure that when I sprayed, if this was my airbrush here, in fact, if this is my airbrush, I've sprayed like this, and then like this. So always spray away from the masking tape, and then if you have got any lifted areas, the paint shouldn't go under, and if you put it on lightly, it shouldn't bleed under either. So we shall see when we take the tape off. If we have to do anything, we'll have to do any touching up. And I can see there I've got a red area there, so I can show you now what I'm going to do. I'll come in and I'll just spray away from the masking tape, so we can get the paint down like that, as you can see, and we paint away from the masking tape. It won't go under even if it's lifted, as long as you don't go too heavy. If you keep it light, it won't go under. Alright, now this is just a base coat. This is Mr. Surfacer. It's like a primer, checker sort of thing. So that's that done. Okay, so that's how I go about spraying with masking when it's a bit dodgy. As long as you don't go heavy, as I say, it definitely won't blow under, and it shouldn't bleed under if you don't spray it on heavy. The main rotor blades, as you know, we get the decals, these yellow stripes, and they go on. I think I've already showed you this. They go on, as you can see here. You can see there we have these yellow stripes. I remember I talked about this, didn't I? Because I talked about the distances that I worked out. So that's that. What I've done, I've used 0.7mm Izu tape. You get this from Premium Hobbies. Don't forget, if you're going to get some, use the code NMB10. You get 10% off your order. And use that in 2 strips, as you can see here, over the yellow. So we'll end up with yellow bands, and it's just going to be so much nicer than having decals on there to have them painted, because in real life, they're painted. I mean, what the other thing you could do, of course, is paint it black and then mask it and spray the yellow on, but getting the yellow to go over black is going to be an absolute nightmare. Yellow is a nightmare colour, full stop. And then the ends here, you can see the ends. I've just looked at it and thought, well, there's the first panel line, as it were. I've just taped up to that with some 10mm masking tape. So all I'll do is, with these, I'll come in and gently, very gently, very dry coat of paint over the masks, just like so. Again, spraying on this one, spraying away from the tape, not into it. Just slowly build it up, don't get it wet. And what this will do, this will just seal the tape in. And don't forget to do the leading edge, because the leading edge is often forgotten. And when you come along, just dust the paint on, not spraying it wet at all. Just build up the colour very, very slowly. This is about 18 psi I'm using, and it's Mr. Surfacer Black, thin to like the consistency of milk. I know you don't like me saying that, but that's what I've done. I can't say it's 50, 60, 70% thin or whatever, because as we all know, Mr. Surfacer thickens with age. Every time you open the bottle, it thickens a bit. So when it's new, hardly needs anything at all. when you've had it a few months, it needs 70% thinner. So there we go. So that's all I'm doing without getting it wet, just building it up like so, and that way now we can just paint it as normal, which I'm not going to do here because I'm not in my booth. So there we go. So that's how I've done that. So I will see you back when we're ready to do some more painting, or when I'm ready to unmask them or whatever. And there we go. As you can see, we're all done now. What I did was held them on this end, painted there, and then put them in a drawer. So you have the drawer just slightly open and you can put them in the drawer and they just wedge in there. And then once this was kind of touch dry so I could handle it, sprayed this end and then just laid them on the bench, as you can see, with the wet end hanging off. So that's them now. They've had that base coat of black, and we can go along now. We can check all the sprue nibs on the front, check they're all good and don't need any sanding or anything. And then once I'll leave all this masking on. Once I've assembled the rotor head, glued these in, then what we'll do is mask off here the green bits down the sides, because this part here is black. This is part of the rotor blade, but it's riveted or bolted on. But then you've got you can see there the green, we've got the line around there, and that's where the black ends and the green starts. So I'll mask that, or maybe brush paint it or something, I don't know. But we'll have to mask down the side as well. There should be like a recess in there, obviously, but there's not one there. I should have added it before I painted it, but I'm not going to bother now. In fact, no, there wouldn't be a recess there. There'd be a recess on the back here, wouldn't there, where the parts join. So all I'll have to do is just mask it up down the side here, paint it black, and it will look okay. I think ResKit will probably come out with I have actually contacted ResKit and they say they are working on something, but they obviously don't tell me what. But basically, I think ResKit will make a new rotor head for this, as they did with the Kitty Hawk kits, and also with some of the Hueys as well. They've made a lot of stuff for helicopters if you go look at their website. So there we are. So I want to say a big thank you to Simon Fisher, who's given me the information about these things here. I believe these are the display units that basically they show a colour, and if the blade is okay, what they do is they fill the main spar of the blade with helium or a gas, or it might be nitrogen, and then they the helium, the pressure in there keeps this valve at a certain colour, which is white. If the helium leaks out, they know they've got a crack in the blade, and that apparently turns blue. So for this one, I think what I might do is paint one of them blue and the rest white, just to add a bit of interest. So thanks for that, Simon. Perhaps you could tell me, because I'd love to know, why on earth this cover that goes over the top has that clear, it's obviously masked, but there's a clear panel in there. I'm assuming it's for inspection, so they can look down inside there. I'm not sure, but must get very, very hot in the sun. So yeah, I'd love to know why that's there. But basically, yeah, we've got the rear rotor done as well, the tail rotor done as well. So what I'm going to do now is let this dry. What I may do actually is do these off the rotor head. But what I'm going to do is with the airbrush, I'm going to streak in some rubber black LP65. You can see it's a slightly lighter colour, and that'll just make them a bit more interesting. The thing is, to make things interesting, if you just leave it black, it looks like a black brand new thing. Now, it's got a bit of damage on that trailing edge there. Whereas if you paint them, you know, and sort of blotch it all up a bit, break it all up a bit, just like I've done with the fuselage here, as you can see there, it just adds a bit of interest. I mean, the camera's making it look more than it is, but it just adds a bit of interest, and just makes it look so much better, in my opinion. It just breaks up that green, and then when you come over here like I have with the oils, again you can see how it really does sort of break it up and look a lot more interesting. And also that oil has kind of flattened it back a bit, which means I may not have to give this a matte coat. We shall see. But I will definitely put some flat coat under there before I put the engines in, just in case. So there we go. So I'm going to probably do this LP65 in a minute, and then I'll come back and we'll probably call it a day for this video. We might get these glued into the rotor head, we shall see. But you can see I've left some yellow bits there as well. These need a proper going over again. So I may have to go over them with black again, we shall see. But anyway, I'll see you in a minute. Okay then guys, we're done. So there we are, we've done the LP65 all over this one. I didn't put any streaking or anything on it. I'll do that with oils and stuff afterwards. But maybe a bit of chipping or something as well, but just a bit of dry brushing on the front edge. Nothing too much, because as I say, this is like a, you know, it's just done its first hour's use or something. And as you can see on the blades here, I'm not sure if you can pick it out to show you a dry one, be better. You can just see on there we've got the rubber black. It's just giving us that broken up look, and then when we go on there with oils and start rubbing it around and stuff and chipping it, it should look really nice. So I want to get this unmasked as soon as I can, because I'm thinking if I leave this masking on here too long, it's going to pull the yellow paint up with it, because the chemicals in the paint will react with the glue on the tape and it will be disastrous. So I'll be getting this unmasked in a minute, but just to show you how big this is, let's make sure I get these the right way. So that's the top, like that, so they go in nice and tight there. So you can see this is absolutely huge. It's very large indeed. So there we go, that's just with one. You can see it's absolutely massive. I mean, this you're looking at here, from where my finger is here, you see it here. That's an A2 cutting mat. So you can see the rotor diameter is bigger than an A2 cutting mat. So if I level it up there, you can see it's hanging over the end of there by about 50 mil. So it's huge. It's a very, very large thing. And to give you an idea what it looks like when it's on the helicopter, there we go. You can see there, it's nearly touching the tail there, the rotor blade. And there she is from the side. There you go. So all in all, it's lovely, isn't it? So I'm really pleased with how this has come out. Yeah, very, very nice indeed. So I'm going to call it a day for this one, because that's about an hour we've done now. So I'm going to go on and get these glued onto the rotor edge. You don't need to see that, and I'll probably get some masking done. And then when we come back for part 12, will it be? We'll start looking at decals and stuff. We'll get some gloss coat down first, get some decals on, and then I need to get the final few little greeblies on there, and then we can start looking at getting this bloody Mr. Fragile thing on. That's going to sit, just so you can see what that looks like, guys, because I know you want to see it. Let's try and get it so it's in shot. That's going to go on there, so you can see it brightens it all up with our tail rotor in as well. So we can stick that into there like that. Blimey, you can see how close the tail rotor and the, look at that, see how close the tail rotor and the main rotor gets. That's incredible. I know I've got masking tape on there, but yeah. And then that's going to sit on there like that, and it's going to look lovely. Bit of bright orange just to take away, but yeah, very, very nice indeed. Got one of those even it then. That's my masking tape, not the rotor. So there we go. So very, very happy with how this is coming out. Very happy with how it's all looking. And check back for part 12. And we may well get it finished in part 12. I know I said that with this one, I always say it, but we shall see. See you back for part 12. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Don't forget to hit that subscribe if you haven't already. And please hit the like button if you've liked it. And if you haven't liked it, hit the dislike. Tell me why. Bye for now.